Okay. If you remember, we learned last time in the Sikha of the Rebbe's about Chanukah. And the Sikha, it talks about the discrepancy between the beginning of this song that we sing after lighting the candles, Haneros Halalu, this apparent difference between the beginning and the end. What does it say in the beginning? In the beginning it says, Haneros Halalu, these lights, Ala Chuos Anisim V'Niflos. It says that on the salvation, the miracles, and the wonders. And then in the end, it says the same three things. It says Laholel, Lahalel, Lahodos, right in the end. What does it say over there? On the same thing, the salvations and the miracles and the wonders. The only thing is it changes the order. It puts the salvations in the end. Instead of saying salvations and miracles and wonders, it starts off with the wonders and the miracles, and then salvations last. Why would it do that? Is there any meaning to this? Is there any purpose? It's not a rhyme or poem or something that you have to change the words in order to fit the previous sentence. Why did they change it? Okay. Base. One of the facts of this saying that we say after we light the candles, we say Aneros Halalu. We say Nisecha, your miracles. We also say your wonders and your salvations. It would have been just enough to say thank you, God, for all the miracles you did. Miracles. Why do they have to add in the miracles and the wonders and the salvations? We know what the miracles were. The miracles were that they won this battle and that they found a bottle of oil and that they lived for 8 days. That's the miracles. What do you have to add in this thing about wonders and salvations for? So we can see, because it says three things, Ro'im, we see, Shemitzvahs Hadlakas Ner Chanukah, that the commandment of lighting the lights of Chanukah, Einenu Mehave Zecher Rak L'Neis Pach Hashem. And it's not just showing the miracle of the bottle of oil. Sharihu Einenu Bebechinat Yeshua, because the fact that they found this bottle of oil, this is not a salvation. This did not save them from anything. Like we said a lot of times, they could have lit. There was a lot of oil there. The Greeks did not spill out the oil. There was a lot of oil that they just defiled the oil. And technically, according to there's a loophole in Jewish law, a clause that if the majority, if there's no pure, if there's nothing pure to be found, that you can sacrifice even with impure, if there's no other choice. So they could have used this impure oil. So if so, that what it says Yeshua's, it must mean that they saved them from something else, from this, from the Greeks. El Chalal Suge Yeshua she'Hashem Rabbi Yamim Ahem B'Zman Hazeh. In generally speaking, the salvations that Hashem showed in those days, nowadays, are divided general into three types. B'toch kol echad mi'asugim, each one of these three types, we can find majority. Teshuos, there are many salvations. Nisim, many miracles. Niflot, many wonders. And Kivin shema'oros yemei Chanukah, because everything that happened in the holiday of Chanukah, kolalim, kama v'kama in Yani Yeshua, there's all sorts of different salvations of all different types. What types of salvations are there? Let's see. Hezber zeh ona al kushya chazaka acheret. This answers even a stronger question. Bekesher lazkaras neis Chanukah, regarding the miracle of Chanukah, like it says, regarding the miracle of Purim, kayemes chova, there's an obligation, lahazkir tatzala Yeshua mihaman roshan gam b'yom gam b'layla. Regarding Purim, you have to read the Megillah in the daytime and in the nighttime. Tell everybody the whole story. Lo kein gam b'yanitzachon al yavanim b'Chanukah, which is not the case on the defeat of the Greeks in Chanukah. Really, you don't have to even mention it at all. The whole holiday was set on the lights. But the fact is, it was one of the miracles. It was a nes. V'yotem is a nes, a big miracle. They defeated the Greeks. Masra giburim b'yad chalashim. The Greeks were strong and they were many, and we were few and weak. But ochegam Purim oyam mustar b'darkei ateva. On the other hand, the miracle of Purim, the victory that we had on Purim, this was completely natural. The Jews were fighting for their lives. And so it wasn't such a big miracle that they saved themselves. They were fighting for their lives. And not only that, it wasn't such a big, lopsided. So Hari, the prayer. So it's true that we do mention the victory of Chanukah twice in the prayer Al HaNisim. But the fact is you don't really have to. Why? Because even the whole prayer of the evening prayer is optional. You don't really have to pray their evening prayer in Judaism. And it's true, we say Al HaNisim, we talk about the amazing miracle that we beat the Greeks when we bless after eating, but you don't have to eat meals on Chanukah. There's no obligation to eat bread on Chanukah. So it comes out that there really is no mention necessarily to mention at all the miracle of the victory twice. In Purim, it's a commandment. You have to read the Megillah twice, and you have to remind everybody. In Chanukah, it's mentioned only once, and then it's mentioned like sort of on the side. It's not really a thing that's really stressed that much. So why is it in Purim you have to mention it twice, and in Chanukah you mention the miracle of the victory only once? You can answer this simply by what we said before. The lighting of the candles of Chanukah, it's not just to remind us of the miracle of the lights that were back there, but all the miracles that happened in the days of Chanukah. Okay, but Anu Motzim we find that one of the ways of expressing our thanks for the miracle of the victory is by means of lighting the candles. So lighting the candles then doesn't only remind us about the miracle of lighting of the candles, it also reminds us of the miracle of winning the war. And that we do in the nighttime. So if so, we're reminding the miracle of lighting candles. In the daytime, you have to pray. You pray the morning prayer. In the morning prayer, you say Al HaNisim. There it talks about the miracle of the victory. In the evening, you also have to mention the miracle of the victory when you light the candles. Just lighting the candles themselves is remembering the victory. We'll see how. Now we can understand a little bit why the order was changed in this Thanksgiving that we make, this paragraph of Thanksgiving, Al HaNisim. But this is the reason why the order was changed in the beginning of a Nerot Chalalu. it talks about three types of savings. Three types of saving and salvation that happened. That was done to our fathers back then in the time of the Second Temple when the miracle of Chanukah occurred. Therefore it's like this. When we start saying this Haneros Hallelu, we start off by saying on the salvation, on the miracle, and on the wonders. Why? This is what it was. First of all, there was salvation. After that, there were miracles. And after that, there were wonders. We'll see. He'll explain what he means. Which is not the case in the end of the same praise of Neros Hallelu. There, it talks about the way Yotzim Shloshet Asugim Etzleinu Et HaHargasha Shel Lahodot L'Halel Shimcha Gadol. In the end, it's talking about how we are impressed by these miracles. So first, in the beginning, it's talking about the miracles themselves. First of all, it was a salvation. We'll explain this. In the end, the salvation comes last, because that's the last thing we're impressed by. Let's see what it means. Now it's different. In the end, it's different. First of all, there were the miracles. That was the first thing that brought us, that impressed us to praise God. After that, there were the miracles. After that, there were the wonders. And only after that were the salvations. That's what we were impressed by. So in the beginning of this Neros Hallelu, it's talking about the order that things happened. The Rebbe will explain. And in the end, he's talking about the order in which we're giving thanks to God, which what impressed us most, we gave thanks first, and etc. Let's see. Daled Habir. There's a big difference between what is the salvation, what are miracles, and what are wonders. If somebody does a war against somebody else, shekochotov domim, that if there's equal powers, there are two great armies, each one of them has 100,000 men. And each one has the same weapons, each one is equally trained, both armies are of equal power. Nevertheless, in order to win, if it's an equal battle, you have to have the help of God in order to win. True, somebody has to win, but not necessarily. Sometimes you can have a battle, and both sides can fight, and they just massacre each other. Nobody really ends up winning. Sometimes it could happen that even one side wins, but he's so decimated by the enemy that it's not really worth it. And I think in the English they call it a Pyrrhic victory, Pyrrhic victory. In other words, you win, but it's such a costly victory that it does. So therefore, you have to pray to God that there should be Yeshua, salvation. There has to be a salvation. It's in equal power or equal forces. God help me that he doesn't win, that I do win.
What is salvation?
So, to be saved. In other words, you're in a bad situation and you get saved from the situation. Right? The guy's drowning, somebody comes and helps him, saves him. Spiritual salvation means, basically the same thing. The person is drowning in the world, he's drowning in his troubles and his worries and his doubts and his confusion. Right? Somebody comes along and says, gives him a job. He gives him a job and starts praising him and says, we'll train you on the job, you can make mistakes, don't worry about it, we trust you. That's a salvation, it saves him. Right? It saves him. Shahari, Lafia Teva, Gover, Pamsad, Zev, Pamsad. If you have a war of equal forces, so naturally one side can beat the other one. Doesn't make any difference who's going to win. Nitzachon Zehu Ba'ofen Hanira Ke'inyan TV. Then when one side wins, so it's true he needs a salvation in order to win, but still it seems that it's natural. Somebody has to win. It doesn't seem to be like a miracle. Because you can say, good, he won, one guy won. Good, it's a big miracle, everybody's happy. But it still is a big miracle that it happened, like there was in World War II, and The war, when the war ended, we beat the German. Oh, everybody was happy. Because it could have been that they could have beat us. It was so costly when the North beat the South in the Civil War. Even though the North had more people, but still when they won, they were tremendously happy. The war is over, people. So if so, you could say it wasn't really a miracle. Even though it is a miracle, once one side wins over the other one. But you could say, listen, somebody had to win. So therefore, that's the idea of Yeshua, a salvation. A salvation means, it doesn't necessarily, like I said, gave you the example. A person loses his job, and he's all depressed, and he feels miserable. He's considering committing suicide, I don't know what. And all of a sudden, somebody comes and knocks on the door and says, hey, where have you been? Man, we've been looking for you, listen, come, don't feel so dejected. Come, let's take a walk in the park. Let's think about it. And suddenly he says, listen, maybe I'll have a job for you. Come. And he gives him a job and he saves him. It's really a big miracle. But the fact is, it's not a miracle. People find work all the time. Right? So depends how you look at it. Nace, what is a miracle? That's a salvation. Salvation is really a miracle, but it doesn't look like a miracle at all. It doesn't look like. What's a nace? What's a miracle? A miracle is Hatzalah Shalamayla Miyateva. This is a salvation which comes above nature. Benigud Lechuke Ametzios Hativis, which is against physical, natural ways. For instance, for instance, one side is much weaker than the other side, and they win the battle. Naturally, it can't win. This is a big miracle. Above nature. That was when, in the 6-Day War, right? Maybe the amazing example. The 6-Day War, the Israelis were outnumbered, 10-1 or something. And the enemy had, that 10-1 tanks and 10-1 planes and 10-1 this. And we won. And all of the non-Jews were saying, this is a miracle, this is an open miracle. Everybody started. And the Israeli government said, listen, calm down, It was natural. True that we were outnumbered, but we have the best fighter pilots, and we have the best, and we were motivated. And they tried to make it normal. But the fact is that everybody said it was a miracle. Now, nobody says that the fact that the Allies beat the Germans or that the North beat the South, whatever, it was a miracle. It wasn't a miracle. The forces were pretty much equal. They were pretty much equal. Maybe the North had more men, but the South had men that were trained in guns. Who knows, whatever it is. So really, it was a miracle when the forces are equal, that one side wins. But that doesn't look like it's sort of natural. If one side has much less people, that's called a nace. That's a miracle. Right? Everyone says the 6-Day War, that was a miracle. Everybody except for the Israelis. A big miracle. Right? A few diehard Israelis, the leftist Israelis, which that's the government. No, it wasn't a miracle. We just have really good pilots, and their armies were stupid, and etc. and etc. But nevertheless, when a few people defeat a lot, that's already called a miracle. That's a nace. What's a nifla? Nifla is a wonder. Niflot em tofa'ah anikra pella. Something happens which is not just a miracle where a few people beat a lot of people. There's what's called a wonder. A wonder is ein el nisim berurim. This is a clear miracle. Shafilu limenosam k'ma'urim b'derech hateva. I'm sorry. Ein el nisim beruri she'efshar limenosam derech hateva elaim oros amuvdalim umufrashim. These are not things that are, what do you want to call it, amazing, supernatural things that happen in nature. This guy beat this guy. But niflaot, these are things which are totally out of the normal. Splitting of the Yam Suf. Maybe the best example. Splitting of the Red Sea. Oh, the example. Everybody thinks this is the example of a miracle. But not just a miracle, a wonder. A wonder. A wonder is something that you see that it's clearly the hand of God. There's no way you can explain it. You can know where you can explain it. the Jews went over. As soon as they finished going over, all the Egyptians went in. The rivers, the sea, which was split on two sides, it caved in on them. How are you going to explain this? Say, well, it was the forces, tidal forces, and there was gravity, and there was this. Well, how would gravity make it split in the middle? Not only that, according to the Midrash, it's split into 12 different paths. So, the only way we can explain it is you have to say it's a miracle. Either it's a miracle or the Jews just made this whole story up. Right? But there's no other way. God's speaking to all the Jews on Mount Sinai. What do you want to say? It was aura. They were all hypnotized. They were all, they all made up the story. They all got together and they made up the story. Or a few people in later generation. It's impossible. It can't be done. Such a thing like that. A few people made it up. All the Jews believe it. They're all so stupid, right? When I say that no, it was they were all hypnotized. Moses hypnotized 3 million people that they all say the same thing. Who can do a thing like that? It doesn't make any sense, right? And so it's a big. Nobody ever thought of that before, that they were hypnotized. Only now they thought of the generation. Maybe. So it's a miracle. You can't explain it according to nature. So we have 3 different types of miracles. A miracle which could seem to be totally natural, like 2 armies fighting one against the other, equal forces. Then if one wins, it's really a miracle, the fact is. But nobody says it's a miracle. Why? Because somebody has to win. Then there's that's what's called a salvation. Then there's a miracle. A miracle is a thing, it's sort of like 50-50. You can say that it's a miracle, but maybe it's not. Like 30 people in the time of Chanukah, 13 people defeated 30,000. How are you going to say that happened? It has to be a miracle. Says, listen, maybe not. There's this thing about, they say in hand-to-hand combat, that if you know how to fight against something like 12 people, then you can fight against any number of people, because there's a certain amount of people that can come near you. How many people can come close to you? Good, they had spears, they had long spears then. So let's say if you know how to fight 40 people, because he knows how to 4 or 5. So maybe all these people had tremendous energy, and they know how to fight 40 people, and they're just killing and killing and killing. And as they kept going on, everybody sort of lost enthusiasm from the Greeks. And then we won. It could be. Pretty hard to say a thing like that, right? But nevertheless, maybe it could be. That's what's called a clear miracle. That's a miracle. A miracle is a thing which is very hard to say that it's natural, but maybe it could be. Then we have a wonder. A wonder is something where there's no natural explanation. Either you have to say somebody made the whole thing up and it never really happened, but if it did happen, there's no explanation. It's something totally out of the ordinary, right? Out of the ordinary. That the sea split, that God spoke to everybody heard God speak. Where do you get a thing like that? This is what's called...
That would be the oil burning for 8 days.
Okay, we'll see. For instance, the saving of the Alter Rebbe on Yutes Kislev. Shu Kotev Alev, he says it's a hifli lasod. He said it was not just a salvation and not just a miracle, but it was a wonder. Gulat Yutet Kislev, the releasing of the first Rebbe of Chabad from jail, Nigmara Be'emsos Sarim. It was finished by means of the highest echelons of the government. And also there was a lot of, pressure and influence and lobbying that was done. But all the things that happened, even though you might say that it's somehow natural, if you look at it, you'll see that everything was incredibly amazing, completely out of the normal. You just have to take a simple way. By the Russian government, a Jew was like an ant. It was like a fly. There's absolutely no compunction to kill a Jew. It's a big deal. So who's going to say anything about it? No one would say nothing about it.
So,
right?
Is he saying that's a miracle or a wonder?
A wonder.
Why is that a wonder? That sounds to fit the definition of miracle. A miracle is something that happens naturally, but probably doesn't happen naturally. It's too crazy. And a wonder is something almost supernatural.
Right. I understand. Just one second. Let me see. There's a footnote here. Let me read it. Yeah, it's the same thing of going out of Egypt. Okay. What happened? What happened when the first Rebbe of Chabad was put into prison? When he was put into prison, there was clear evidence presented by people that the government trusted that the Rebbe was guilty and should be killed. There was no doubt in their mind that they were going to kill him, and it would have been a big relief to them if they would have killed him, because the Jews in general were a big bone in their throat. Everybody in the country was Russian Orthodox, except for the Jews. And we got these people are heretics. So the Alter Rebbe was in their hands. He should have been killed immediately. There was nobody to even listen to him. Right? Who would listen? Who would care? It's just a matter of just arranging it, firing squad or whatever. But amazingly, they asked him questions, and amazingly, they listened to what he had to say. And they were impressed by what he had to say. They had absolutely no reason. It was going against their religion. It was going against their everything that they stood for. They had no reason to have mercy on the Jews. A Jew. Suddenly, not only did they have mercy on him, they let him go. They say, okay, let's just get this guy out of here. It's just too much trouble. Let's not waste the bullet. Won't waste the bullet on him, like they say. They were tremendously impressed by everything they did, even though that everything he did was totally against their religion and totally against their culture, totally against everything that they thought they stood for. And you have to remember, they had this proof that he was not just a parasite. He was trying to make a rebellion against the Russian government. It ended up that they let him out, and they let him with honors, and they were tremendously impressed by him, and they all said that this is a miracle, and this is from God, and from the... Okay, true, they didn't change their religion.
Sounds like the story of Purim, which is a miracle, I wonder.
The story of Purim was a little bit different. What happened in the story of Purim? When the Jews won the war, so the Goyim got afraid. The Goyim saw that the Jews were winning, and that what happened? The Jews were spread out all over the place. The non-Jews had an order to kill all the Jews. Not all the non-Jews complied. You have to realize Haman and his sons were killed almost a year before they could implement this decree to kill all the Jews. So in that time, there were a lot of the non-Jews had dissipated their excitement about killing the Jews. So it's true that there were a lot of Jews were seriously outnumbered, but it was nothing like the whole world was against them. That was the original decree. It was supposed to be the whole world was against them. Afterwards, Haman was hung, and Mordechai was put back. This all happened before that Mordechai was reinstated, and Esther was revealed she was a Jew. And then they asked King Achashverosh, do us a favor, let's negate this decree I got against the Jews. And the king said, I can't do it. Gezeres hamelech ein lahashiv. I made a decree. It looks bad if I take the decree back. But what? I'll make another decree that the Jews are allowed to fight back. Right?
And you write it.
Huh?
And you write it.
Yeah, and you write it, the Jews did, and they sent it out to everybody. So a lot of the Goyim already, they sort of lost their excitement about fighting the Jews, because now the Jews can fight back. Right? True, the Jews were outnumbered, and true, it was a big miracle, but the big miracle of Purim was that everything sort of turned around, and that was all natural. That the king, all of a sudden, he loved this, and he hated this, and right? Haman came in and he fell on top of Esther, and he killed his wife. Good, underneath.
Like the story of...
Right, here in the story of Yutes Kislev, what was it? The Jews didn't win any battles. The Jews were weak just like they always were. There was absolutely no reason to have mercy on the Rebbe and let him go. And there was certainly no reason to be impressed by the Rebbe. In fact, after Yutes Kislev, he was arrested again. The Alter Rebbe was arrested again, 2 years later or something like that, on basically the same charges. The charges were much more severe. Says the charges the second time were on all of the Chassidut in general. So the first time that he got out, it was, like I say, it was like an ant. For them to step on an ant would be less regretful than to... So the fact that he got out and then he had an influence on and an inspiration on all this, on all the king and everybody else. It was a very great miracle. It was a very big miracle. Says the Rebbe that this was what we call hapele. It was a pele. And the Alter Rebbe wrote that it was a pele. He said that we could have such a. That was the big danger. What was the big thing of Yudtes Kislev? That the Rebbe had no way of getting out. That's the big wonder. It's not that he was put into jail and there were these accusations, but maybe through, we had good lawyers, like there was the Bayless trials. The Bayless trials. So he got good lawyers, and he got out. It was amazing. They accused him that he killed a baby. You know the story? You ever heard the story? It was a Bayless. It was something like the blood libels of Stalin. It was a blood libel. There was a guy, a doctor, and they claimed that he took a non-Jewish child and he drank his blood. And they put him on court. There was a big, scene in all of Russia. Everybody knew about it, and it was miraculously he got out. Okay, that was the thing that that was like the second or the first type of a miracle. People get accused. There was no evidence, and he got out. Right? It was a miracle. The Alter Rebbe, there was evidence. There was false witnesses that testified. And they came, as soon as they started to realize the nature of the Rebbe, suddenly it changed their mind. Why did it change their mind? He could have been just a smart person. He was a smart person. He was a very great person, but he was evil. He was going to take over the government in their eyes, right? He was a revolutionary, right? He was another, whatever it is, a Lenin, a Trotsky or somebody. He was going to take over the government. They should have killed him immediately. What happened was that amazingly they didn't. Amazingly, they didn't. Amazingly, not only did they not kill the Alter Rebbe, God forbid, they let him out. And not only did they let him out, but he impressed them all. That's the point. He impressed them all. That of the goodness of the Jewish people, the uniqueness of what a Jew is, and it had a tremendous impression on them. So that was the miracle that happened. Okay.
Can we finish this tomorrow?
Yes. What time is it?